This is what it looks like when a country goes broke. The lights don't go out, the taps don't run dry, but in the background, a high-stakes auction is underway. And when a nation can't pay its bills, there's a new lender at the front of the line. It's not the World Bank, it's not the IMF. This lender shows up with a blank check and a very specific shopping list. When a country runs out of money, it can't just file for bankruptcy. There's Chapter 11 for a nation. It falls into what's called a sovereign default, a chaotic scramble where it can no longer pay back its debts. Usually this is when groups like the International Monetary Fund step in with emergency cash. But those loans have a catch. They demand tough, often painful budget cuts. But now there's a new financial superpower in the arena, one that moves faster, asks fewer questions, and plays by its own rules. That player is China. While Western help often comes with strings attached about democracy and human rights, China's motto has been, "We don't get involved in your business." For many developing countries, that's a welcome change. This has created a whole new game, and nowhere is worse afghan than in Zambia. And let's look at Zambia during the pandemic. For years, the country had been borrowing heavily, a lot of it from Chinese state-owned banks, to build new roads, dams, and airports. But that progress came at a dizzying cost. By the time the crisis hit, Zambia's debt to China had skyrocketed to an estimated $6.6 billion. The country simply couldn't pay it back. Zambia searched for a lifeline. It became a test case for a new global process called the G20 Common Framework, which was designed to get all creditors, including China, to negotiate together. After years of tense talks, a deal was finally reached in 2023 to restructure $6.3 billion of the debt. China, a key player in the negotiations, agreed to a deal that gives Zambia some breathing room, principal repayments out to 2026. But it also cemented China's new role, not just a builder, but a central banker to the developing world, holding massive sway over a country's entire economic future. And Zambia isn't an isolated case. It's just one piece of a much, much bigger strategy, China's Belt and Road Initiative. This is a multi-trillion-dollar project funding infrastructure in over 140 countries. China is massively expanding its economic and political reach. The most famous or infamous example is Sri Lanka's Hambantota port. Unable to pay back its loans, in 2017, Sri Lanka handed over a majority stake and a 99-year lease of its strategic port to a Chinese state-owned company. While traffic and money increased, the deal exemplifies what critics call debt trap diplomacy. The theory is that China might be intentionally lending money that countries can't free gas exploit. We've heard similar stories of crippling debt in Pakistan. In Ethiopia and Kenya, Chinese-funded projects have sent their national debt through the roof. So why is China making all these risky loans? On one level, it's simple economics. These projects create jobs for Chinese companies and open up new markets for Chinese goods. And the interest rates, which are often higher than the IMF's, can be pretty profitable. No reasons go measures, like the copper in Zambia's mines. They also build political friendships, creating a network of nations that depend on Beijing and are more likely to vote with it on the world stage. By becoming the lender of last resort, China isn't just building bridges and ports, it's building a new global order with Beijing right at the center. But the debt trap theory isn't the whole story. The truth is, many of these developing nations only turn to China because Western banks and institutions like the World Bank already said no. They are desperate for the power plants, railways, and highways that China is actually willing to build. And recent studies have started to question the idea that China is systematically grabbing assets. Taking over a port like Hambantota is actually pretty rare. What's more common is China's willingness to delay and restructure the loan, just like we saw in the Zambia deal. For many of these countries, a tough loan from Beijing is still a much better option than no loan at all. The world's financial map is being redrawn right before our eyes. China has positioned itself as the planet's emergency banker, stepping in when countries go with a blank check, and through battering devils like the Belt and Road, it's bankrolling a new generation. Global infrastructure is being built at a massive scale, but it's also creating debt like we've never seen before. This leaves us with a huge question. Is this a new kind of economic colonialism, a debt trap, designed to snatch up resources and power? Or is this a new way forward for development, an alternative to a Western-led system that has often left poor nations feeling stuck? What's your take on it? Is this a trap or a lifeline? Let us know your thoughts of lice. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And for more deep dives that explain how our world is changing, make sure you subscribe.